And top of the evening to you. This is Your Voice with Dr. Newman. Nice to have you here with me. It is Monday night, and we're going to discuss narcissism and entitlement and the differences between the two. There is a difference, and we'll get into that. Once again, our lines will be open shortly, and I wanted to take some notes. I guess the best way to explain the difference between the two is to talk to you about a patient I had some time ago, and we can call her Shay. How's that? I'm not going to mention names. Of course, we don't do that around here. But Shay was a very special child. Of course, I saw her when she was more of an adult, and everybody thought very highly of her as she was growing up. Her parents showered her with love and attention, always making sure she had the best of everything. But as she grew up and she became a little older, she became more and more demanding. And eventually, she wanted what she wanted, and no one can tell her otherwise. If she didn't get her way, she had her temper tantrums. She would throw fits, screaming, yelling until she got what she wanted. Of course, her parents tried to reason with her, as most parents do. But Shay was always convinced that she was right. And no matter what they said, Shay would find a way to twist the conversation around, you might say. And she would become the victim, and it was her parents' fault for what she was going through. Eventually, of course, her parents gave up because there was no reasoning with her. They knew that Shay would never change, and that was the way it was going to be. No point in arguing with her anymore. As she got older, she cycled through a bunch of friends. Eventually, they didn't want to hang out with her anymore because they realized that she was very manipulative. And as most people do that have this kind of behavior, they will move from one group of friends to another. They'll always find somebody new that they could surround themselves with and do whatever she wanted them to do. She pranced around knowing that she was the best. She was better than everyone else. And she was convinced that she deserved very special treatment because she was so special. See, deep down, she really enjoyed that kind of power with always getting what she wanted to receive. No one could tell her what to do or how to behave. She was basically in control, and she loved it just that way. The interesting thing is that she had no insight to what she was doing. She was on automatic pilot. You couldn't talk to her about this. You couldn't convince her what she was doing because she didn't believe it. Of course, when someone tried to talk to her about it, she would figure out ways of becoming a victim. And she would twist stories around, she would lie, and she would manipulate to get what she wanted. Here's the interesting thing about this. She ended up creating a world for herself that would satisfy her with all of her needs. I'm not going to mention names, of course, but she became a pretty famous national news broadcaster. And as she got older, of course, she was replaced by younger, better looking, more vibrant newscasters. She was put out to pasture. And of course, she could not understand why she wasn't getting the favored treatment that she'd been receiving for years. That's when she became depressed, and that's when I saw her. It takes a long, long time to break through something like this. Narcissism is a personality disorder. And generally speaking, personality disorders start at a very young age and continue through most of their life, if not all of their life. Of course, personality disorders are a spectrum. So you have personality disorders, or say, for instance, as we're discussing narcissism, narcissism is a spectrum. So in other words, we all have a certain amount of narcissism in us. However, it doesn't affect our daily level of functioning. We do not necessarily lose friends because we have this little bit of a trait. It's good for us. You might want to call it a bit entitled, and there's the difference. When we are entitled, we believe we deserve special treatment. Not for anything we've done that's extremely important. We just expect special treatment. And it could be annoying. People don't necessarily like it, but we are well aware of it. And if we are made aware of this by somebody else, we could become ashamed. But we don't go into fits and temper tantrums, and we don't gaslight people. Being entitled is not a personality disorder, because people that are entitled have insight. They understand what it is they're doing. However, people that are narcissistic do not, as with most personality disorders. So, with that being said, it took a while for her to begin to realize that she needed to find new avenues to help bolster that fragile ego of hers. And this is an interesting point. People that are narcissistic are constantly feeding themselves with attention and getting what they want through manipulation. So, what do you do about this? What do you do with people that are narcissistic? How do you handle them? Well, as a professional, what do I want to do? Well, I want them to come back. I want them to be able to realize over time that they can achieve their needs through other means. They don't necessarily have to manipulate people. They don't have to lie. They don't have to cheat. They can get what they want by being their normal, charming selves, as most narcissistic people are. They're very, very charming. And they can suck people into their lives, get what they want, and then move on. So if you find yourself constantly butting heads with someone who seems to think the world revolves around them, it's possible you're dealing with a narcissist. But keep in mind, too, this person can be just temporarily entitled and would be made aware of this and would kind of pardon themselves. They would ask for forgiveness. A narcissist will not. A narcissist will move on and find somebody else. Typically, they are self-centered and lack empathy. And that's a big issue because they're too busy thinking about themselves and their own needs to think about anybody else's needs and what they may want. So keep that in mind. A lot of people end up in relationships with people that may be narcissistic, and that's a bad deal. If you can, get out of the situation. Step out. They'll be fine. Don't get yourself caught up in it, okay? So the best way to deal with someone who is narcissistic, set boundaries if you can't back out. And make sure your boundaries are firm. Don't allow them to violate those boundaries. Don't let them manipulate. Don't let them take from you what they think they deserve. you're doing yourself a favor. Back out. Best thing for you to do. Again, you can't reason with them because they lack the insight. So don't bother. Now, the best way to deal with someone who is narcissistic is that the best way to deal with someone who is entitled? Have a conversation with them. Ask them what the point is. What are they trying to achieve? And sit back and say, listen, you really aren't entitled to this. You need to earn it. And that's where you set up your boundaries. Set them up in such a way that they earn what they want. That's fine. This is what we do. We work hard, we get what we need. The bottom line is this: you do not have to put up with the nonsense. Maintain your boundaries, dig your heels in, and move forward. If anybody out there is in a relationship right now that's having difficulties with someone that may be entitled or narcissistic, it'd be great to be able to hear from you and share this. I think that there's a lot of people out there that find themselves in these kinds of relationships and have a very difficult time figuring out how to handle this kind of stuff. So it might be interesting to hear from any one of you out there that happen to be listening to this. You happen to just trip over this YouTube channel for some reason, and you can give us a shout. The number is 623-469-6001. You can see that right there. And we'll be here to take your phone calls. By the way, that broadcaster who I happened to see for a number of months found themselves a new trade. And with that began to get their, you might say, their ego nourishment through that. Settled down, got through their depression, and enjoyed the rest of their life. We're going to keep this short tonight. I don't want to get too technical with you guys in regards to the criteria for narcissism. It's a disorder. It's in the Diagnostic Statistics Manual, and there's a lot of criteria that you have to meet to be diagnosed with a narcissistic personality disorder. Those that are lucky enough that have this personality disorder and pursue a career that allows them to achieve the goals that they dream about and find success can very happily live in that environment. It's comfortable for them. They are now a fish in water. They can acquire the attention, the love, the items that they wish to purchase with vast amount of money, success, being celebrity-like will certainly feed that ego that they desperately need to be fed. So if that is not the case, they still maintain that narcissistic personality disorder. But if they cannot find success, it could also become kind of a soft delusion where they believe that they are better than everybody else. And um, they walk around with this kind of self-deluded idea of whom they are, when the truth of the matter is they are not. And it becomes very, very difficult to deal with. Um, if they don't get what they want, they can have those temper tantrums, sulk, become depressed. It's a very difficult life. So, with that being said, the last thing I would like to mention to you is that if you are in a relationship with someone who has a personality disorder, such as narcissism, don't try to convince them that they have a problem. You're wasting your breath. They will defend themselves and they will find someplace else uh, to roam. Thank you very much for your time. Thanks for listening if you're out there. I appreciate it. And take good care of yourself. Stay well. Speak to you soon.